Okay, haven't made a video for a while now. Yeah, it's like you maybe see on the bright light. It's very warm summer day outside, and I'm inside. Well, I will be going outside. In fact, I was already today. But anyway, enough of that. So yeah, haven't been making any videos recently for at least a month or little over. But yeah, today is the release date of AEW Fight Forever finally, and I have played it now for hour or two, and I'm gonna give you my first impressions on the game. So I bought it I pre-ordered digitally for my Xbox Series S and Xbox One. It was a cross-gen bundle, you got the both versions. So I've been testing both versions, mainly to see how Xbox One version holds up against Series S. Of course, I knew that there wouldn't be a performance issues with the Series S version, but luckily there isn't even technical issues with the Xbox One version. It's actually quite nicely done, the last gen version. Both run 60 frames per second, and I really didn't notice much difference between those versions. Yeah, both were smooth, but yeah, maybe Xbox Series version have well, I'm pretty sure that it has a higher resolution. So yeah, and talking about the gameplay, like I expected, it's very different from the WWE 2K series of games, where those are much more simulation style. They aim to be as realistic as possible, and AEW Fight Forever pretty much throws all the realism to the garbage bin and is much more arcade looking and arcade feel of the gameplay. So it plays very differently. You can see that some, move animations are same as the WWE, but they are much faster. It's like a WWE, which is much more slower paced. This is like a nitro fueled WWE regarding the game speed. It's just so much faster. But even though it runs smoothly, there are some technical issues like clipping issues. It's nearly not as polished and finished like the WWE title, which is quite odd. You have to remember we are talking about Hughes, the legendary team behind many old wrestling games, WWE wrestling games from the PlayStation 1 and 2 and 3 era. But yeah, it's quite odd, considering multiple delays, and the game is still quite glitchy and it's not polished nearly as good as the WWE 2K23 or even last 2K22. But it's fun. Of course, the controls, if you are more familiar with the WWE 2K controls, it takes some time to get used to the very different control scheme and overall gameplay on AEW Fight Forever. But it's definitely fun arcade wrestler, and yeah, whatever. The roster, while it's big enough, it's nearly not as expansive as the WWE, which has a huge fucking roster. But of course, comparing WWE wrestler roster against AEW company, I don't think they have as many wrestlers on AEW than WWE, so it makes sense the roster is smaller on AEW. But there are about 50 wrestlers, about 15 females and 35 male wrestlers. We have everything from CM Punk, Chris Jericho, Sting, Jeff Hardy, Matt Hardy, those old WWE wrestlers, and of course the AEW originals like Kenny Omega, Orange Cassidy, Darby Allin. Yeah, there are quite many, but it's nice to see that there are huge amount of former WWE wrestlers nowadays on AEW, and it's just nice to wrestle with those like Chris Jericho, Christian Cage, which also was Christian, goes by the name Christian on WWE, but on AEW it's Christian Cage. John Moxley, Dean Ambrose. It was Dean Ambrose on WWE, but John Moxley on AEW. Yeah, there are many former. It's a nice mixture of former WWE wrestlers and original AEW wrestlers. So yeah, just a little bit about the AEW company. So I think it was formed in 2019, so it's very new. I might be wrong. I'm not sure, it might actually be a little bit older, but if I remember right, I think it was the year 2019 when it was formed. So it was formed to be a competitive, company against WWE. Of course, WWE is so fucking huge that no other company can compete. Just the sheer size of the company and the history. But yeah, AEW is, I think, getting bigger and bigger and getting lots of talented superstars. So it's not like a company that has the WWE has the best roster and the leftovers are in AEW. No way. There are legends. They're like Chris Jericho, Sting, and Jeff and Matt Hardy. But yeah, so my first impressions were oh yeah, about the match type. So yeah, there's again nearly not as much variety in match types that are on WWE, which has a huge amount of match types and also customization options. You can pretty much customize every match to your liking perfectly. There are so many options, but here unfortunately it's very limited actually, but only if you compare to the WWE 2K22 and 23, it's very limited. But in general, I think it still has enough variety on match type. So there are some match types that are not in WWE, like exploding barbed wire matches. That pretty much is the exclusive for AEW, and also there are many more weapons found in AEW than WWE, because AEW is much more violent wrestling than the PG era WWE, so it's much more brutal. Matches are more brutal on AEW. So the game is more brutal, but yeah, in the kind of arcade way, so not brutal in a realistic way. Anyway, so yeah, my thoughts mainly positive. Of course, a little bit drags it down, the technical issues like clipping and not being so polished as WWE games that are really polished, in my opinion, and especially comparing to AEW Fight Forever. But of course, they may patch and update. I hope there will be a good post-launch support for AEW Fight Forever, and they will polish a little bit those clipping problems and glitches. Not especially glitches, but yeah, clipping problems and just lack of polish. I think it can be fixed with future updates. Anyway, if you're a wrestling fan and you are looking for some very different experience than WWE, I'm not highly recommending this, but I am recommending this. It is good game, definitely, but not without its problems. And it's not very, compare. If I now need to, choose which one is a better wrestling game, I would still say WWE, and not just because it's more realistic. Some like more arcade wrestling, some like more realistic. Maybe I'm a little bit towards the realistic kind of wrestling games, but it's a nice option and nice different experience, fresh new experience. So I want to have both. Now I have a realistic wrestling simulation and fast-paced arcade wrestling game. Anyway, that's it, and yeah, not highly recommending it, but I still recommend, especially if you like arcade, more arcade wrestling games, like back in the day Nintendo 64 No Mercy. I think this is kind of spiritual successor to that game, but I have never played that. I have only seen it on YouTube because I didn't have Nintendo 64 back in the day, so I haven't played it. But yeah, I believe, like many says, that it's a kind of spiritual successor to that. And also some other more arcade feeling wrestling games in the history. Anyway, that's it, and see you in the next one. Bye.